Thanks for staying with us. We're in Manhattan, Kansas at the 2016 Commodity Classic. We're joined by Dalton Henry. It's been a while since Dalton's been on the show. I think Dalton was like maybe our third guest when we started several years ago. So it's great to have you back on.
It's great to be back on. It's great to be here in Manhattan at the Commodity Classic.
United Wheat Producers, is that right?
U.S. Wheat Producers.
U.S. Wheat Producers. There's one way we could look at things, Dalton. We could either look at it, the glass is half full, or the glass is half empty. And I would like to say you kind of look at it as half full.
You know, I think probably do. I mean, certainly U.S. Wheat Associates is focused on export promotion of U.S. wheat and wheat products. And so certainly in the near term, on an export front, the news is frustrating. The strong dollar, back-to-back years of record world wheat production really make it tough for U.S. wheat producers to compete in overseas markets right now. But I think if you take a step back and think about where we were a couple of decades ago and where our opportunities are a decade from now, I think there is a lot of reason to be optimistic, especially on a wheat export front.
And you talk about some of the emerging markets that could potentially be big for us. South America being one of those, the Asian Pacific area that could potentially be big not only for U.S. wheat producers but Kansas producers.
Absolutely. You know, I think that when we look at export-dependent industries, and U.S. agriculture for the most part really is, but especially U.S. wheat producers. On an annual basis, we export about 50% of our crop because we've got the capacity to produce so much more than what we can consume here domestically. And so access to markets is key, getting the right policies in place, and then building demand over the long term. And that's where we've really seen some exciting success, particularly in the Trans-Pacific Partnership countries, for example. You know, when we think about Southeast Asia countries, the rapid economic growth that they've been seeing, combined with population increases and an increasing preference for wheat foods, I think that's going to be a really successful area for us going forward.
And not only the TPP, but there's other opportunities moving forward. And what are some of those opportunities?
Yeah, I think that we've got to look at how do we address market access on a bigger scale, or how do we accelerate the pace that we're going at right now? I think TPP certainly is the big one. The TTIP, Transatlantic Trade and Investment Partnership, that's the EU Free Trade Agreement, that's a big one as well. And then I think you've got to go back to how do we expand these two trade agreements and recognize that they're not the same as maybe past trade agreements where we negotiated with a single country and then we went on to negotiate with another single country. These can both be platforms that we build on into the future.
Perfect. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to talk about other markets and other opportunities for U.S. wheat producers. Watching kansasAGreport. We'll see you in just a minute.
This segment brought to you by Oldie Seed Farms, carrying soil-specific seed. Find them on the web at oldieseed.com. That's OHLDE seed.com. Kansas Livestock Association, supporting our members' business interests to meet consumers' demands. KLA.org. Grass and Grain, online or in the mail, keeping Kansas farmers informed for over 60 years. grassandgrain.com. Kansas Wheat Commission, leaders in the adoption of profitable innovations for wheat. Online at kswheat.com.
Thanks for staying with us this morning. We're at the 2016 Commodity Classic in Manhattan. We're joined by Dalton Henry. Thanks for staying with us, Dalton.
Absolutely. It's good to be here.
Building in premiums for Kansas, not only Kansas wheat producers, but U.S. wheat producers, that's a really big part of prices may be where they're at, but building in premiums that really help drive additional dollars.
It really is, and sometimes those premiums are hard to see in the marketplace because those market signals, all right, I mean, it's not a single wheat producer selling to a foreign country, right? That grain is aggregated, brought together, sent to a port facility, and then moved in bulk. And so, but one thing that we really like to look at is what was the average prices paid to U.S. wheat growers compared to their competitors around the world. And we've got a number of organizations that track those prices, and so we can make a pretty good comparison. And so, although you see a lot of news about exports being down and these traditional big markets that we don't play in a big way anymore, primarily Middle Eastern wheat markets, because those are just they're tough from a logistics perspective, they're tough from a currency perspective, and at the end of the day, they're price markets. The exciting thing about the regions we talked about earlier is that they're quality markets, and they've shown a real willingness to pay for U.S. quality on a regular basis.
Well, not only that, but their economies are growing, which allow them to pay premiums for the products that they want.
They really are, and I think that as we look at Latin America and Southeast Asia, we're looking at parts of the world that really have a lot of potential for additional growth, that have, the world is probably not a real stable place at the moment, but relatively speaking, there's some stability there, and that gives the ability to start to grow incomes, to improve diets, and to start looking for quality products as opposed to just baseline nutrition.
You look at it and wheat's taken a beating the last couple of years. Genetics being one of the reasons maybe it has taken a beating over the last 5 or 6 years. But Kansas State, Kansas Wheat Council, they're all making progress, getting better varieties into the fields now.
They really are, and I think you and I have talked about that numerous times in the past, and the investments that Kansas Wheat Commission, the Association of Wheat Growers have made have just been tremendous in terms of the ability to accelerate the breeding process. And so, our hope is that can make progress on both a yield front and on a quality front, so that we can continue to maintain those premiums in overseas markets, but at the same time really focus on what also drives profitability for U.S. growers.
And that's having a product that other people want to buy.
It really is, and at the end of the day, we spend a lot of time focused on quality within U.S. Wheat Associates, producing quality reports or marketing on quality. One of the real advantages that we have in overseas markets is that we've been doing this for a long time. Promoting wheat. We'll celebrate our 60th anniversary in Japan this year, our 50th anniversary in a few other places, and so we've got great relationships with those millers, and over time we've been able to show where purchasing quality supplies of wheat can lead to better profitability for them, and at the end of the day, that's a good trend for U.S. growers.